Hi everyone, welcome to a special episode of Eternal Basics. Today we're going to be talking about card collection, dust efficiency, basically how to get a bunch of cards early on for a free-to-play player, and where to effectively get the most cards and the most value to get your deck started and get to the setups that you want to be getting to. I think this is a topic that people request a lot, and there's a lot of different ways to accumulate dust and cards in Eternal, many sort of like alternate currency. There's not too much alternate currency, but there's a couple of different like alternate ways to get them, and there's also like a question of like what's the most efficient path? How should I most effectively grind to get cards if I want to just play to like try and get as many cards as possible? So this is going to be about that. We're going to be talking about how to get the most packs and cards out of your format, and also like how to get started. This is going to be primarily for beginners, but there will be a couple of tips on Forge as well as some tips on like where to get other types of cards that might be useful for intermediate players as well. We are going to run through a Forge real quick and sort of discuss card choices and what makes like a good Forge card versus a bad Forge card a little bit later in the video. So first things first, like I would say if you are playing free to play, one of the first questions you probably want to be asking yourself is whether or not you want to keep a hold of premiums that you collect. If you are a person who really likes to get like 100% collections, I would recommend that you don't try to go for premiums, just because a free-to-play player really can't collect all of the premiums in this game all at once. It's possible and completely viable to get a full set of every card in a non-premium format, and even some premiums on top of that. You can do that on a free-to-play budget. It requires a lot of time and a lot of effort, but I would say that it's definitely doable. But for premiums, an entirely premium collection, like that's something that I've never seen anyone do. I would say that it costs at least 3 times as much, so that's kind of an issue. And then also it is like just a tremendous investment of hours and time. I am nowhere close to it, and I play something like 7,500 hours of Eternal. And I'm not a free-to-play player. I do spend some amount of money on this game. So yeah, premiums dust for enough value to typically craft at least one copy of the card that you're looking for. They will get you 25 for commons, 100 for uncommons, 200 for rares, and then a little bit more even for 800 for rares, 200 for premiums, and then a little bit more for 3,200 for legendaries. So enough to craft a legendary, rare, or uncommon, and I think half of a common from a premium. So like dusting those is a good way to get started on a collection if you're looking for places to actually find like good options. If you're trying to get particular cards available, consider dusting your premiums. I wouldn't say that it's necessary to do so, but it is a useful way to accumulate cards very fast. So that's something to note if you want to be a free-to-play player. Like, don't try to go for all of the cards in premium, just go for all of the cards in basic. But yeah, you can definitely get a decent amount of premiums collected as well if you want to play that way. It's just going to be a little bit harder and a little bit slower. Okay, so once you complete the campaign, the Empty Throne, you will be able to unlock daily quests. These will of course get you a decent amount of money in the form of chests. Chests start at bronze, they go to silver, then gold, then diamond, each in progressive levels of excellence. The gold and diamond chests contain packs, and the diamond chest contains a premium rare, as well as the most amount of money. I believe it's something like 250, 500, and then about 1,000 to 1,200 or so in a diamond chest. So like, yeah, basically with a silver chest, you have a 10% chance of upgrading that chest to a gold chest whenever you open it. With a gold chest, you have a 10% chance of upgrading to a diamond chest. So the 1 in 1,000 is bronze to diamond. That'll actually happen if you play a lot of Eternal quite a bit, but like the 1 in 100 is more likely, which is why silver chests are pretty good, and the 1 in 10 is also very good. In all of these situations, like basically just try to get the value of the chest itself. Do your daily quests to get chests. That'll be a really easy way to get things going, and all you have to do is like play the games in versus battles, which does mean that you have to fight against other opponents, which is not always easy, but can be pretty worth it, and will give you some exploration ideas for decks. But first things first, let's talk about the solo modes. So Gauntlet is where most players will start. You get to battle through a gauntlet of increasingly powerful AI opponents, and if you check this little info button here, you can see exactly what the rewards are. It's 3 silver chests. However, if you beat the Gauntlet, there is a level up reward where you rank up. You go from bronze to silver, silver to gold, gold to diamond, diamond to master, and every time that you do that, you get an extra special chest that has a decent amount of money in it and a single pack. That's pretty useful. Like, I would say that in general, trying to get Gauntlet to about gold or higher is a pretty good idea. Gauntlet is free to enter, so you can play Gauntlet as many times as you like to grind. It is just sort of a time investment after, I would say, gold. Once you get up to master, the difficulty becomes a little bit harder. You've got the 1 elimination, and some of the decks are pretty tough, and also there is a pretty boss-like deck at the end that tends to get really, really rough at master, and like even experienced players can sometimes get rolled by it by accident, and that's not always a great time. I really recommend you go to gold, but I wouldn't say that you need to go to master to get started on your collection. It's just an optional way to get an extra pack if you're feeling pretty good about Gauntlet and you want to keep playing Gauntlet in general. The same is true of Forge. The difficulty of the game increases over and over as you go along. The rewards for Forge are quite a bit greater, and the general benefit to it is that you get 2 packs on a level up, or rather on beating the Forge. So if you can do well in Forge and beat those, you'll get quite a few packs, and that will get you very, very close to started. Forge costs 2,500 to enter, but the reward is 2 gold chests plus the level up chest, which is usually enough to get going on your next Forge and continue to Forge basically almost endlessly. You'll also get access to some draft tickets, which will allow you to get some extra stuff going on. I believe you get one for playing your first Forge, something like that. So yeah, keep that in mind, but in general, like that's sort of the way to go, is you start with Gauntlet, get it up to about gold, then you go to Forge, and then get that up to about gold, and with both of those modes, you can continue playing them as much as you like. They do reward packs because they reward gold chests at the top, but they are a little bit difficult as time goes on. Okay, so we're going to walk through a Forge real quick. We're going to talk about like what cards are good and what kind of cards you don't want to run. So with draft formats, things you're looking for pretty efficiently statted units. You're looking for removal, things that kill your opponent's stuff. You're looking for evasion, so anything that's got like a decent clock on it, so it's something where you have like a good amount of attack on it, and then it has something like flying or unblockable. That can really, really help out in certain circumstances. You do need them to be somewhat stat efficient. Things you are not generally looking for are cards that are very situational, cards that have a large amount of requirements or are like basically not units. You're looking for mostly an array of units, a small amount of attachments or spells, and then like you just want to have enough units, and you also want to have a curve, which is to say you want to have a decent amount of 2 and 3 and 4 drops and very few 7 or 8 or 9 drops. You want to be trying to avoid those cards because they are the cards that are in your hand when you're just looking for power while your opponent is beating down on you with a pretty terrible like 1/1 or something along those lines. The Forge decks are not very good. They don't run a lot of units, and like to start with, at very least, they don't run a lot of units. They don't run a lot of legendaries. They run way too much power in their deck, and they have a lot of like really situational cards like Attachment Destruction. So like if you can build just a decent curve of units and some good removal, it shouldn't be too hard to get through the Forges. That isn't to say that like there isn't definitely a learning curve involved, and that's totally fine. Everyone's learning things, but Forge is also a good place to learn that, as is Gauntlet. The AI is very, very good at teaching, I would say, attacking and blocking, and also showing you a little bit about like sort of how to effectively use certain cards to sort of establish tempo. AI is particularly strong at basically deciding when to attack, when not to attack. It will not usually be very risky. It will never ever bluff, and like you can really, really keep that in mind. If it's attacking into you and like it has a 4/4 and you have a 5/5, the AI definitely has a combat trick in its hand, because it's not going to throw that card away unless there's a way that it can win by doing it. So, okay. So let's go through a Forge real quick. First off, I've got 3 cards here. Marizo Gladiator Hero is very expensive, but it's also a very strong rare, so I'm pretty happy to grab this one. Infernus is a lot of immediate damage, but the thing to note about it is that it doesn't build board position, it dies immediately, and it's only good on the first turn. So situational, doesn't build board, and like even though it's pretty well statted, I wouldn't say that this card is a good first pick for a deck. You want to build the fundaments first, and then also build like removal, all of that stuff, and then like as you're going going along, you can sort of decide if your deck needs things like damage, then you can do things like Infernus. Corrupt is a lot better. This card's very situational, but it is something that you can usually use a lot. I would say that since the AI has bad spells, like you're generally not going to be using this card very much, and also I would say that usually counter spells are not terribly effective. Corrupt is one of the best counter spells because it's a counter spell that builds board advantage by turning a removal spell into a removal spell for your opponent, but I mean, the AI is not going to be running that many removal spells, and also it's just like not that strong here. I would take Marizo Gladiator Hero in an instant. It's big, it's heavy, it's stat efficient, and it's a good finisher for the deck. From here on out, we don't want to pick too many 7s. All right, so when you pick your second color, that locks you into the Forge, so you are going to only get cards from those 2 colors. So if we take Vainglory Patrol here, we will be in Xenon, which is to say Shadow and Time. Cult Recruiter here gives us an Ambush, which gives us like a removal spell, effectively. It also builds board. This card's surprisingly strong, despite its somewhat low stat pool, and it's also got a higher stat pool than Vainglory Patrol. I would never take Endure here because Endure is not only not a trick, so it doesn't like actually give us any sort of like good removal effect, it's also really, really bad on like efficiency. It doesn't give any sort of bonuses, and it doesn't have any permanent advantage associated with it. Like if we use this, then the board advantage just goes away the turn after we use it, and then we are down 1 more card against the AI, which we don't want to be doing. So we're going to take Cult Recruiter here. Arachnodon Egg turns into a 4/4 dinosaur, only costs 1. It's a little bit slow, but it's a really reasonable 1-drop. I'm pretty happy to take this. Vainglory Patrol is fine too. We do like the evasion. 1 health is usually not something you want to see on a 4-drop because of removal, so that's not amazingly strong. Soul's Fury is removal, and we like that a lot, but I don't have units to sacrifice here, and if I did sacrifice a unit like this for Soul's Fury, I would be quite a bit down on board. So we're going to go for Arachnodon Egg because that one builds a board. Towering Terrazon is an extremely efficient 5-drop that actually gets us like a ton of bonuses. The other option here, Yeti Snowslinger, is also very strong. Inflict Conscience is okay removal, but it's also situational, which we have talked a little bit about how like situational cards are not amazing. This card is something that allows your opponent to still block with it, meaning you'll often be a card down when you're playing it because you'll play the Inflict Conscience and then your opponent will just trade their unit with yours on defense. So can be okay here, but like the AI is not going to be attacking us if we put an Inflict Conscience on us, so that card's just going to be a problem. If we had a lot of flyers, we would consider this, or if we really needed answers to flyers, we would also consider this. So here, either Terrazon or Yeti Snowslinger is correct. They are very equal. If we want to pick our second color, I can go for Snowslinger. 2-drops are pretty important, but I also like this big pile of stats. They tend to be very good against the AIs pretty early on. All right, Linrai Evangel, Gibbering Jackal, and Roosting Warhawk. Roosting Warhawk is a very good evasive flyer. It's not terribly stat efficient, but it is a flyer nonetheless. Linrai Evangel gives us fixing, and that gives consistency to our deck with our second color. Gibbering Jackal is removal, but it's not very good removal. It tends to be pretty inefficient. It often won't kill the thing that you want to kill. I would say that generally we're looking for stat efficiency here, and we're looking for fixing, because fixing allows us to more frequently get power and not get power screwed. If you can find cards like Seek Power, Linrai Evangel, any type of Evangel, those cards actually really work well in your deck because not only do they fill the 2 slot, which we need to fill, as you can see our curve isn't very good here, but they also mean that you are less likely to draw hands that you can't play, where you have a bunch of time cards and then a bunch of blue cards, or a bunch of time sigils and a bunch of blue cards. Cards like Linrai Evangel really fix for that. So, okay. Serpent Mount. This card is stronger than it looks just because it's got like a ton of power on a flyer, and if you're playing big units, Serpent Mount can be very strong. Majestic Mandrake is also like a good curve card that's also pretty big. I would say going big here is fine. It does mean that we have to be, like with this many, a 5, a 6, and a 7, we have to be really, really careful now to pick mostly cheap cards, but we've gotten a lot of very stat-efficient big drops, so I would actually take that. Elysian Stranger. This is along the same line as Linrai Evangel. It's a fixer. It's really important. Wilderness Refuge would get us to other things, and that's nice. Sinister Opportunist is situational, has pretty poor stats for its value, and just isn't very strong. 2-drop 2/2s, 3-drop 3/3s. These are the basis of any good draft or forge deck. They really do a lot, and if they have extra skills, more power to them. Snowcrust Yeti is a 1-drop. We're not going to take Panoptic Guardian because A, it's stat inefficient, and B, it doesn't really do anything useful to us. Unmake kills attachments, which again, pretty situational. The AI might play some weapons, but I would say generally we want to remove units, not weapons most of the time. You occasionally want one of these cards in your deck, but in a pool of 25, no way. Snowcrest Yeti is the pick here. Cult Recruiter gives us another like 4-drop option. Humbug is a tiny flyer. I would say Cult Recruiter makes the most sense here. Cruelty is removal. It actually kills small units. We actually feel pretty happy about that. Cliffside Caretaker is nice because it gives all of these big units flying, and we could play that. I'm a little hurting for removal, so I'm tempted to play the Cruelty, but the Decimate here also is one of the primary ways that we get that removal, so we might go for Cliffside Caretaker instead to get us like big flyers that actually win the game. Of the two, I think I'm a little more inclined towards Cruelty because Caretaker is, again, pretty situational, but they're both pretty close. In this case, I think I'm going to take the Caretaker because it seems like a fun option. Jarl's Frostkin. That stun ability is very efficient, and that's like really, really strong. Yeti Snowchucker is a good aggressive unit, but does have some situational problems as well. I would say this card is good if you've got a decent amount of aggression in your deck, but like we're not quite that aggressive. We're looking to get to 5s and 6s, so we want to actually delay the game and play efficient units like Frostkin as opposed to other types of options. Both Vinepetal Creeper and Xenon Guardian make a lot of sense here. We've been passing Meditations because they put us a card down. You not only have to put a card on top of your deck with the card, which means that you don't draw a new card, but also like you lose the Meditation, which means that you get into a lot of trouble there. If you use it against a removal card, that can be handy, but again, the AI doesn't run a lot of removal. We want to be really efficient on stats here. Xenon Guardian upgrades to an 8/8 in the late game and is also just a reasonable 4-drop. We're pretty happy for that. Cult Recruiter, Court Mage, Oasis Sanctuary. Cult Recruiter number 3 is definitely not bad here. Court Mage is also playable to defend us since we know that we're playing into the late game here. Since our curve is not very good on 2s, I'm tempted to take Court Mage here, but I would say Cult Recruiter is just always good value. And ambush units, tricks of any kind, are really, really strong against the AI, because the AI will never know what's in your hand, and it will always attack without guessing. So it will definitely swing 2/2s into Cult Recruiter every time, whereas a non-AI player might read you and basically just not play that card. Okay, so we were talking about curve, right? Our curve is really messed up. We need cards like Devotee of the Sand to get to this big stuff, so we're going to get this 2 right here to make sure that we're in much better shape at getting from 2 to 4 since we're missing 3s. Wyrmstone plays with spells, but we don't have any spells, so the situationality of that is really not good. This card is normally amazing in Forge and Draft, but since we haven't found any spells really in these packs, we're going to go for Sandcrawler instead. Belligerent Yeti, that is a 2-drop. We need 2-drops to fill out. Sky Horror Draconis would be a great curve topper, but again, we don't want too many 7s because if we greed too hard, the AI is going to kill us on the small end. Yeti Windflyer, Thunderclaw Raven, and Reverberating Strike. Reverberating Strike is the first removal that we found, and I'm kind of tempted by that, but I would say it's generally better here to pick a small flyer and just sort of let that go. Since we have a bunch of big units on the board at the top end, playing a small flyer allows us to push across for damage every turn. Yeti Windflyer is a 2/2 with Linray Evangel, and Belligerent Yeti and Snowcrest Yeti. Thunderclaw Raven draws a curse from our deck, which not as useful here. I would say Windflyer is probably going to be more efficient. Spiketail Kirin, another 2-drop, versus Sky Snapper, a somewhat situational but still pretty good option. All 3 of these cards are very good in Forge. I would actually pick them pretty evenly. Since I don't have any Wisps, Kirin or Sky Snapper are the choices, and since my 2-drops are a little bit light, I want to have at least 6, I'm going to go for the Kirin, since it's a pretty strong card in general. Eternity Core. That gets us to 6 and 7. It does mean that we are not playing a unit as opposed to other things, and it might just be better for us to play Zoltan Brushfang or Serpent Mount here and go for either the big flyer or the small unit. Since my AI is a little bit leveled up, I think they're like currently on like Diamond or something like that, we're going to take the Zoltan Brushfang. Elysian Trailblazer is way too expensive. Permafrost is removal, and it's the first good removal that we've gotten here, so we're definitely going to take this. We really need answers to our opponent's stuff in addition to running our own stuff. That running a bunch of units will usually get you there. Brutish Interloper is really strong if you've got a lot of removal, but other than that, usually not going to be a choice. Fearstoker Raven cares about discarding cards. We can't really do that, so we're not going to take this very situational card. Savage Skybrood cares about dinosaurs. We might have a few dinosaurs. I think we have a Towering Terrazon. It's not amazing though. Swirl the Sands removes flying units, which is actually really useful, and also gets rid of Relics and Curses, which may or may not end up being useful. There's quite a few curse decks in the AI. This card is stronger than it looks, and it is a combat trick, so we're going to take that. Getting rid of flyers, silencing flyers, and just generally like making sure that flyers don't exist is another important aspect of removal in this game. Cards like Mute, cards like Grodov's Favored, those are cards that actually allow you to really push in the air with your own small flyers. If you have cards like Yeti Windflyer and say Avarax Familiar, which is also getting us into good places, then that is something that you can push across with while you are silencing your opponent's flyers, and then you just have a big meat wall on the ground. This is a common way to win in Draft and Forge. I would definitely recommend trying for it. Rosebloom Mandrake, situational 6/6, but not bad if you can actually get it going. We don't have any mill, so definitely not going for that. Talir's Favored is a very strong card. This is just a good way to get extra time sigils and get to your next color. I would say since we have a decent amount of 2-drops and we really want to ramp to like 4 and 5, we're going to do Abrax Familiar instead. The Warp ability gives us card advantage, the flying gives us a way to win the game, and the maximum power allows us to get into these very big guys. Rotor Cycle, Yeti Traditionalist. Yeti Traditionalist is a muster effect, which we can't really do right here. It's very situational. Rotor Cycle is a small flyer. It's not terribly efficient, but it is a good way to win the game, so we're definitely going to take that. Skywalk Instructor gives big guys flying, so that's a really effective option. It also has flying. Lost in the Mist is okay removal, but in a Gauntlet game, games can go really long. These cards aren't as effective in those respects because people will just play the card again and again, and you'll be down cards. Skywalk Instructor gets us a big Marizo or Majestic Mandrake or Towering Terrazon into the air. We love that. Divining Rod. Now that's a potential curve topper. If we had like a good amount of flying units or something like that, we could play Divining Rod. Arc of Soul and Reap are not really doing a lot here, so we might actually take Divining Rod just for the stats. Arc of Soul would sacrifice a Cultist, which we don't really have, or we could also use it to ramp a little bit by sacrificing something like Snowcrust Yeti. That might be on point for what we're trying to do. I would lose board advantage, but it would fill out the deck a little bit. I think in this case I'd rather take the Divining Rod. It's just a little bit of extra stats that we can put on a flyer or something like that to make the flyer a little bit more of benefit. So that was not a bad Forge. That's sort of a walkthrough of how you make decisions in Forge. You want to go for units, you want to go for good removal that like actually kills the stuff that you're trying to kill, and then you want to go for flyers, evasive units, all of that kind of stuff. We ended up in Time, which tends to go really, really high on the curve. Other decks like Fire will go really low on the curve, play more 2s and 3s, try to get really aggressive, try to play a lot more removal, that kind of thing. So that's a Forge. Yeah, we will, yeah, there's definitely, we weren't going to play the whole thing or else this video will take about an hour and a half, but nonetheless, that's basically how you walk through Forges. So the other thing that you can do in single player is you can play the puzzles. Puzzles in this format allow you to basically get a little bit of extra gold, and they also teach you mechanics. So they will teach you all of the interesting little sort of weird tricks and things that make Eternal different from Magic and other games, as well as teaching you cool things that you can do in like future formats, maybe giving you some cool deck ideas. The general reward for the basics is 20 gold. After that, the bronze, silver, bronze, they have a different bronze, silver, gold, diamond, and master. The bronze gives 20 gold, silver gives 30, gold gives 40, diamond gives 50, and master gives 100. So you can earn about a pack's worth of gold, maybe a couple more than that on the like 100 or so puzzles that there are. So that's worth doing if you want to learn a little bit more about the game, and it's not like incredibly gold efficient, but it is a little bit of extra gold that you can get during your day, so seems pretty decent. All right, so get Forge to about gold or master, or about diamond, I would say, or master. Get Gauntlet to about diamond or master. You don't have to go for master. I would say that Forge in particular to master is a real struggle, and since it costs money to do it, I don't really recommend it. But like you can certainly do it for the achievement or just to like sort of play Forges until you're feeling ready to take on Versus Battle, which is where we're going next. All right, so in Versus Battle, there are two major modes. There's Expedition and Ranked. And then also we have the Event League, we have the Draft, and we have even special events that occur sometimes. So let's talk about Expedition and Ranked first. Both of these can be played in a casual format where you basically just have like a practice mode type thing. You can do that by, I believe Expedition doesn't currently have that going on, but it might in the future. I'm not really sure how the casual button works right now. There's going to be some changes to this because Expedition is getting a league of its own. So, but in general, Expedition and Ranked are the places that you want to go. Playing in casual format will get you less rewards overall, and there's no reason to be afraid of Ranked in general. I would say that like while the decks there are tougher and like it is just going to be like a bit more difficult to get going, it's nice to get an MMR started and sort of, which is to say a matchmaking rating going, so that you get matched against other players of your skill level, and just sort of like play with that, play with other players of your skill level. Overall, it should eventually start balancing out to 50%, or if you're pretty good, you can do even better than that and actually get your way moving on up to master. Okay. So Expedition is probably the place to start for new players. This is a limited format that only uses the current packs that you're getting as well as the Eternal Draft packs. So you can build pretty easy. interesting decks out of it. The power level is not as high as in ranked, so players aren't going to roll you as heavily with legendaries. You can build good aggro decks and then just sort of like get through these very, very quickly. The reward structure for this, aside from the League, which does give you some extra stuff, we'll talk about that with ranked, and I don't know what the Expedition League is going to look like yet. But if you are playing this, you will get a bronze chest every single game that you win, and then on your third game, you will get a silver chest up to 3 times. So if you're playing daily, the most efficient route is to play Expedition, 9 games or 9 wins, and then get all 3 silver chests, and then go to ranked, play those 9 wins, get those 3 silver chests, and then you have like a completely efficient setup. You'll still get bronze chests for playing more if you're like really, really into Eternal and you're playing more than like 3 or 4 hours a night. Then yeah, like that'll absolutely work. There are definitely people who play this game like 40 hours a week, and they can do that. But yeah, like I would say that in general, like Expedition is the place to start for building decks. Don't be too afraid of the players there. You'll definitely learn some cool tricks. You'll learn some cool deck techs. You'll find some new ideas off of people. Just don't be afraid to lose, and don't be too worried about it if you do lose. Like you'll definitely get a lot of information out of those losses, and you'll be able to convert that into many more wins. I myself was not a very good Magic player before I started in Eternal. I really, really liked limited formats, but I didn't play like a lot of that kind of stuff. And yeah, just playing a lot of this game has made me a much better player. And a lot of it has just been not being afraid to sort of experiment and try different things. So yeah, go with Expedition and ranked. Once you get enough money, which is to say 5,000 gold, the primary place where you should be spending that money, instead of on buying packs, is to go into draft. Now, draft costs 5,000, but when you play a draft, you'll get some free draft tickets as well when you get started. But playing a draft can get you as many as 3 diamond chests as a reward. And the main thing that's important here is that buying into a draft buys you 4 packs and a guaranteed 2 silver chests for even a 0-win deck. So you get 4,000 gold worth of packs, which you then get to cherry pick for your favorite rares, the best cards that you need for your decks, and whatever you think is actually really strong. And then you get another 500 gold on top of that with a 10% chance to upgrade to a gold chest, which contains a pack. That is always more efficient than just buying packs. Even if you are going to like 0-3 concede, which I don't recommend, I think you should play out your drafts, then like you can definitely get a wild amount of good cards out of drafts every time that you do it. So this is more efficient than buying packs in almost every situation. Yeah, so do drafts. The rules are very similar to Forge. One thing about the difference between Forge and Draft is that the AI is a lot more easily stymied by big, large, dumb units with Deadly. It's a lot more easily stymied by combat tricks because basically the AI will always attack into combat tricks. They'll never like be prepared for things like Cult Recruiter. Whereas in Draft, players are a little bit smarter, but the same rules still apply. Pick removal, pick efficiently statted units, get a curve, pick fixers so that you don't end up in like situations where you are just drawing a bad hand and then you have to mulligan it, and then that's a bad hand, and then you have to mulligan it, and then that's a bad hand. That is something that you can generally fix by grabbing cards like Seek Power, Evangels, Strangers, and keeping your curve somewhat reasonable, not going too high on the 5s, 6s, and 7s. Once you do that, your drafts will go a lot smoother, and just having a smooth pattern to your draft tends to be a really good way to win a game, and at least pick up a few wins in a draft format. I like draft probably the most out of all of the ways to gain packs. It's just like a really efficient way to get a lot of money and gold. You can not quite go infinite, but you can get really, really close by drafting multiple times. And if you get lucky on the chest upgrades, you can even do like a little better than that sometimes. So it's not bad, but yeah, it's definitely a wild amount of things. And then, of course, the diamond chests reward premiums, which sometimes include premium rares and premium legendaries. That's worth a lot. Sealed League is a thing you can buy into once per month. It costs, I think, 12,500. You don't need to do this. It is a good way to get a decent amount of packs. I think you buy like, I think something like 10 packs out of different sets. And then the rewards for it are similar to that of a league. You can get like a decent amount of extra packs on top of that for beating the Sealed League over a month. In this format, you build a deck out of packs that are given to you. Again, you get to keep all the cards in the packs, just like in Draft, and then you can basically play that out. You also get a special card back for doing this. So saving up about 12,500 for a sealed league at the beginning of the month, or even like buying into it at the end of the month and playing the 40 or so games that you can play to get matched will get you a decent amount of stuff out of that. It's not necessary, but sealed league is certainly on the list of things that you can do. There are these events here. For these ones, basically, like there's always something special going on. Check out the prizes just with the button and see exactly what you're looking at. There may be leaderboard prizes as well. In these cases, they're usually not terribly efficient unless you're winning about 3 games, but they're okay, and they're certainly a lot of fun to play, so go ahead and go into them if you want to. All right, so that's Expedition, that's Ranked, that's the Sealed League, that's Drafts. That's all the versus modes. The last thing that we can talk about here is where to get like extra packs and extra dust and how to sort of like set up some things. And I've made a little list of all the things that are currently going on. There used to be a free campaign. There isn't one right now, but if that ever shows up again, we'll definitely put a link in the description. But yeah, like the main thing to note here is, if I haven't actually, oh, I've lost my document. That's okay. We can do it mostly by feel. Okay, so the things to remember are, number 1, if you are using a referral link, if you're a fairly new player, you can take a referral link to get yourself access to a free deck that contains a Valkyrie Spire Guard and a number of useful Valkyries for other types of decks. It's just like a bit of extra dust, and all you need to do to that is just use one of the Eternal referral links to sort of get your account associated with Eternal. If you're not very early on into the list, that's something that you can definitely do. Referring other people also gets you a deck that is like a Yeti deck, and then I think your second referral gets you 3 packs, and then after that it's like mostly just like premium stuff. It's nothing too crazy, but those are easy ways to get like a couple of extra free packs and get your collection started, which I think is a pretty big deal. You can also sign up to the Direwolf digital newsletter. If you do that, every single newsletter contains a little claim pack button at the bottom. So you get the email, you open up the email, you hit the claim pack button, you log in under your account, and then you will get a free pack from the current set, which in this case is Flame of Zolta. So signing up for the newsletter will typically get you something like 4 to 5 packs a month, I would say. There's been a lot of announcements recently with the Switch release and a lot of other stuff happening, so I think I've seen as many as 10 in the last like 2 months. It's been crazy. But yeah, like Eternal's always got new things to announce, and they're usually happy to throw in a little extra pack just to make sure you're reading. So if you're interested in just free packs for the small cost of something in your promotions tab on your Gmail, that might be something worth doing just because it gets you a couple of extra packs. Another thing that you can do is Twitch drops. If you link your account through Twitch, the link will be below in the description, and you go to the Twitch Eternal directory, you can watch any streamer that you want. Just leave them on in the background, or actually like go and visit maybe our stream if you're so inclined. And then basically while watching streams, you will get something called Twitch drops, which will essentially be small little chests that you can open up that will contain common to uncommon cards, sometimes even rares, occasionally draft packs, occasionally packs. During October, which is considered Droptober, these tend to be much better rewards. Like I think the current promotion right now is the packs that are not Flame of Zolta packs have guaranteed legendaries in them. There's a higher chance of draft packs. There's a lot better premiums in the list. So this is a good way to get free cards and things like that. I'm at Twitch TV/LocoPojo. Regardless of what streamers say in their little title, like everybody has the same chance of drops. So you will always get drops regardless of who you watch. Just watch the person that you like and you will get whatever you want from anything like that. So that's one option. The other thing that you get from watching Twitch streams is there are these little chests that pop up, and you also gain passive influence as well. But there are these little chests that pop up, you click them and you get little blue orbs out of them called influence. Influence can be spent in the Eternal store to buy certain things, including random set packs, so it's pretty inefficient, but it is a good way to get extra packs. And you can also buy a stockpile bundle that it contains, I believe, something like 10 packs from each set. So if you're watching a lot of Twitch streams, or like you're just idling them or something like that, then yeah, you will get a lot of influence together, and that'll get you the ability to buy things like this stockpile bundle, which can get you a bunch of extra packs to get your collection started. So notable things if you are looking for extra ways to get influence and gold together. But yeah, as far as my recommended path, I would say Gauntlet to Diamond. Forge to Diamond, do the puzzles. Make sure that you did complete the campaign first because you want to get that stuff going on. Build expedition decks, play them until you get your 3 silver chests. If you're feeling comfy with it, go into ranked with your decks and try to get those wins as well. Every time that you have 5,000 gold, you want to draft. You can save up for sealed or you can choose not to. It's mostly a matter if you want the shiny card backs or if you're really interested in sealed as a format, but just drafting is good enough. And you can always forge, but it's not typically efficient after those level up rewards. But yeah, beyond that, just you can do all the little extras if you want to. That's entirely optional, up to you. But just a bunch of cute ways to get extra free-to-play stuff. And that's pretty much it. I don't think that we missed anything, be it like the referral links, the newsletter, the Twitch drops, influence. Yeah, like we've got most of the like different extras. Just keep running your daily quests, things like that. You'll find yourself with a pretty complete collection in no time. And dust your premiums if you are a person who wants to play entirely free to play. Oh, if you do want to buy into the game itself, like even just a small purchase of 300, notably there is like a kind of decent deal here going on where if you buy any amount of gems, you get 3 packs. So like just straight away, and then every time that a new set is released, you'll get 3 packs from that set as well, just because you spent gems on the game. So if you want to go a not quite free-to-play, but a little free-to-play format, you can invest as little as 300 gems and get things going. The larger gem packs give you more gems, but like I leave those financial decisions up to you. This is mostly about free-to-play players and like basic stuff. So just a small little note on that. Okay, that's it for me. I am on Twitch TV/LocoPojo. I am here on YouTube and Patreon. If you are interested in watching some games and seeing some drops, we tend to stream around 7 p.m. PST, Monday through Friday with Wednesdays off. And on Thursdays, we tend to do big long streams as well. So you can look for me there. Thank you so much for watching. Get those packs. Hope you have a lovely time and see you next time. Cheers.